Hello, I'm Liam and welcome to my allotment tour for the beginning of December. This will be a different allotment tour compared to my other videos because there's less growing on the plot at this time of year. As usual, the video is divided into chapters, which is the fastest way of seeing what's in the video. Also, if you want to rewatch a part of the video, this is the easiest way of doing it. If you like the video, please let me know by hitting the like button or leaving a comment. So let's get started. Taking a quick look inside the shed that I'm storing the vegetables that I grew over the summer. At the top here in this tray I have my shallots, still plenty in store. In these boxes I have my potatoes. It looks more than it is. The first two boxes are actually empty. And then on the top shelf of my shed I'm storing the winter squash. I'm also making full use of the hot compost bin at the moment. This container is almost full. Let me just lift the lid. Before I do that, I'll just show the temperature. It may be possible to see that if it is coming out on the camera, it's somewhere around 53, 54 degrees. And it may be possible to see over there steam coming out of the hot compost bin. And there should be more when I open the lid. There we go, steaming away, it's almost full. And that is the compost that I'll be using to put around the rhubarb and the fruit bushes. This is an experiment I'm doing at home. Inside this container are some peas. Let's just take a look inside. These peas were sown at the beginning of October. And they are looking really good at the moment. I hope the cover will be enough to protect them over the winter months. But if successful, that will bring an early harvest of peas in mid to late spring. I'm not that confident that the peas will survive over winter, but that's why I'm doing the experiment, just to see what happens. This is the view of my allotment plot from the end. What's really noticeable compared to in the summer is how little green there is on the plot and how many of the beds are really dormant until spring arrives. My blueberry bushes at the front here are now without their leaves. It was a really spectacular, colourful sight a few weeks ago, but now they've all been blown off. A few weeks ago I did apply a thick mulch around their base to give them a feed for the start of the next growing season. The first bed next to the blueberry bushes is where I planted my garlic for overwintering. The garlic cloves have been relatively slow to germinate, but I was really excited to see a few days ago that a few of the shoots have started to break through the surface of the soil. If I just get in closer, it'll be possible to take a look. I'm going to lift up the net, and it may be possible to see there one of the shoots coming through. If I turn the camera around, it may be possible to see another one, which is just there. Still very small, and many are still to come through, but a really good start. The bed further up from the garlic is where I hope to plant my shallots. Next to the garlic bed I have my old brassica bed. And right at the front, I've been quite patient, waiting for the cabbages to mature, but I think these are now ready for picking. What I'm going to do is lift the net up and cut through the stem using my secateurs. And there we go, one good sized cabbage head. I'm going to clean that up and hopefully put that in a stir fry. Up from the cabbage I have a few kale plants remaining. Still a really good size. These are first providing me leaves in about May time. I think I'll pick a few of those leaves for my stir fry as well. If I get in here I'll just rip off a few leaves. I'll choose the leaves with the best colour. Not the really large ones because they're likely to be tough, and not ones that have been eaten by anything. This looks a good one. There we go. A handful of really good looking and nutritious kale leaves. Up from the kale plant I have the remains of what used to be my New Zealand spinach bed. The New Zealand spinach plants were just here. I've already taken a lot of leaves and used them in my hot compost bin. And what remains are a few chard plants that I planted at the other end of the bed, which are growing new leaves, and the remains of a row of beetroot, which I've left here to harvest when needed. But to be honest, the beetroot here is looking a little on the large side now. If I pick this one up, you can see it's quite pitted there, and actually all around, so it doesn't look that appetizing to eat. I may actually clear these beetroots away now. Up from the New Zealand spinach bed I have my parsnip bed. Again, it doesn't look very appetizing. All the growth is dying back. But that's not a problem for parsnip because the roots are below the ground and protected. I may have a go digging one up just to see how they look. I'm going to use my spade to dig them up because the roots here have the potential to have gone quite deeply. My soil is really sandy, which is the ideal growing conditions for the roots. So let's see how deep they do go. I'll start at one end. I think this is a plant here. Oh yeah, just lifting it up now. But that's the first parsnip, perhaps a little on the small side. I may have a go at the one next to it, which looks a slightly larger plant. I'm going to get my hand around the... oh, that really is quite thick. I'm going to pull that up now. That isn't quite what I was expecting. It's forked into individual roots. But the header itself isn't too bad a size. That's probably a tennis ball's worth of parsnip. The two together there will provide a good flavour for a soup. Next to the parsnips I have planted some beetroot. This time an orange variety of beetroot. I think these are looking in better condition than the purple beetroot I picked earlier. Let's take a look. There we go, a better size. Still a little bit pitted. Maybe there's a better beetroot if I pick another. Let's try this one. Perhaps a little bit better. I may have a few in this row which are good for eating. Further along from my parsnip and beetroot bed, I have this bed full of leeks. These leeks are really growing for harvesting in the spring, March, April time. Now a few weeks ago they were suffering from rust, but what I did was I picked the worst affected leaves off and the rust problem seems to have disappeared. However, the plants are looking a little on the droopy side, but that's really not surprising considering the cold and wet and windy weather that there has been down at the plot over the last few weeks, and I'm still hopeful that come the end of winter these plants will renew their growth and the stems will start swelling to have a really good harvest from them. It's just a case of waiting to see what happens. Next to the leeks I have this bed that I've left dormant. I gave it a good covering with mulch before putting ground cover fabric over the top. I haven't decided what to do with this bed yet, but it's ready for the spring. And then up from that bed I have some more winter and spring vegetables. I have some cabbage plants at the front here which are maturing nicely. Actually, this one at the back here, it's got a really nice pointy head to it. I think that'll be the next cabbage I'll be harvesting. Beside of that, I have my broccoli plants. These are quite tall plants, a little shy of 1 metre in height. and I've tied them up to canes to help protect them from windrock, and they're covered with a net to keep the birds off them. All being well, these plants will make it through the winter, and come early spring should be producing their broccoli heads. Right now I think they're looking really good. Next to the broccoli and cabbage I have another bed that I've left dormant. It may be possible to see the bumps in it. That's where I've put the spent compost from the tomato pots that were growing in the Polytunnel. And I'll also put a really thick mulch to give the bed a really good feed. Up from this bed I have my bed that I was using as an experiment to grow some autumn vegetables. I was hoping to harvest the bed in autumn, but I did plant perpetual spinach, which should last all the way through the winter and be at its best in early spring. Let's take a look underneath the fleece. Well, this is the fleece removed. The perpetual spinach on the left here. The plants are maturing, but they're still relatively small. They're doing okay, but a little bit smaller than I was hoping for. And then the radish next to it. I keep on looking at their base to see if I can see the signs of the radish swelling beneath the leaves. And right now I don't think they're ready for harvesting. I think because of the relatively cold and wet autumn weather, these plants haven't grown on as much as I'd have liked them to. The fleece is showing signs of damage on the top, but I'm not going to replace the fleece. The intention was that this would be an experiment, and I want to see how well the fleece holds up overall over the next few months. What I've just done is to pull the fleece away from the other end of the bed. Now I planted different varieties of radish. At one end I planted a white variety called Mooley, and at this end I planted a variety called Blue Moon, and quite excitingly I think some of the radish here is ready for harvesting. If I lift up the leaves here, it may be possible to see a purple coloured radish just there, so I'm going to have a go at lifting this one up. And there we go, one radish. I wouldn't call that blue, so I think that might be red moon. I think it was a mixed packet of blue and red moon radish seeds. Let's have a go at this one. Well, that's two of a reasonable size. That's enough to take home and see what they taste like. I'll see if I can get a third. There we go. 3 almost identical radish. I quite like the look of those. Next to the bed that contains my perpetual spinach and radish, I have my bed that is covered by thick wire mesh, and underneath that I have my strawberry plants. Nothing really happening in there at the moment. And along from my strawberry plants I have the apple tree that I planted in the spring. That's looking good, almost as tall as me now. I'm really happy with how that tree is growing, and the apples this year were really lovely. I'll just remind myself of the name. It's Kids Orange Red on M26 rootstock, so it's not going to grow too tall. I don't want it providing too much shade for the rest of the plot. To the left of the apple tree I have my rhubarb bed. Now the rhubarb plant was a really good size in the summer, but now all the leaves have died back, and it's now almost the perfect time to come down and give it a really thick mulch on top of well rotted manure and compost. And just up from the rhubarb plant I have the dahlia plants that had bright orange flowers at their prime in the summer. These dahlia plants are well past their best. I'll cut the stems down, and I may lift up the tubers of one of the plants to store them, but I'll leave the other in the ground, because what I found is that the tubers here tend to survive over winter, and I find it easier to dig them up in the spring, divide them, and that way I know which tubers have germinated and I can put them where I want them. It's easier to see inside the fruit cage now. Straight in front I have the first gooseberry plant, my blackcurrant plant, next to that a redcurrant plant, a different type of gooseberry plant, and then the biggest gooseberry plant of all right at the end there. What I haven't done yet is to get inside and to prune the bushes, and I also want to put a thick mulch around them. If the weather's good in December, I hope to come down here and do that job. Next to the plants in the fruit cage I have my row of hybrid berries. Starting with the Tayberry plant that is still covered in leaves. It's looking really vigorous, which I hope bodes well for the harvest next year. Along from the Tayberry I have my Loganberry plant, which has got much less leaves on than the Tayberry plant. And up from the Loganberry plant I have my Boysenberry plant. And similar to the Loganberry plant, the Boysenberry plant is relatively lacking in leaf. I still haven't replaced the tubes supporting the plants. That's a job I hope to get to in December now. And the final row on the allotment is my row of raspberries. The raspberries do need their supports replaced to strengthen them, but all things considered they're in a much better condition than they were in a year ago, and I hope the harvest will be better next year as well. The supports at the end here have completely fallen over, but thankfully the stems look in one piece. I hope to be able to salvage them. At the end of the plot I have my Polytunnel. I've already disconnected the solar powered irrigation system, taken the battery out to protect its life over the winter. It's not good for the battery to get really cold. And I've half emptied the water butts, but I've left a little bit of water at the base of the water butts, because without the weight of the water at the base of the water butts, a strong wind can blow them over and then they roll all around the plot, which can potentially damage the plants as well as the butts. Inside the Polytunnel is now looking completely different to how it did in the summer. And this is how the inside of the Polytunnel looks now, completely different to how it looked just a few weeks ago, where it's almost impossible to see the size of the Polytunnel because of the tomato plants. It looks a little messy inside despite the big clearing up job. The walls of the Polytunnel could do with a clean to remove the slime on the outside, and probably on the inside too. And the floor is looking a little messy, but importantly the space is clear, the pots are empty, and it's pretty much ready to go for the start of next year. I'm pleased I've got the job of clearing up the Polytunnel out of the way. And that's it, that's the end of this month's allotment tour. I hope you liked the video. Please let me know by hitting the like button or leaving a comment. And don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel in the usual way.